Welcome to the Artful Teaching Podcast, where teachers are brought out of isolation and into conversation.
Here, we spotlight professional educators as both artists and leaders, and examine how the arts deepen student learning and improve school culture.
Education is a demanding field, and we've seen teachers rise to the challenges of their profession by leveraging the arts in the classroom.
Integrating dance, drama, music, visual arts, and media arts can bring so much joy, and we're excited to share that with you.
We're your hosts, Callie Phlox
and Heather Francis.
Thanks for joining us to hear various perspectives on the art of teaching.
Welcome to the Artful Teaching Podcast. I'm your host, Heather Francis, and today I have a wonderful co-host named Tina McCulloch. You heard her in our first series on teaching in a pandemic. You heard her on our series on action research for teachers and self-study. And now she's here as a co-host with me to facilitate a series on STEM and the arts. Now notice this is not a STEAM series, this is STEM and the arts. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why that is. But along with Tina, we also have a guest with us, Heather Leary. She is a professor in the Instructional Psychology and Technology department at Brigham Young University. And Heather and Tina are working on a project together, and we're also going to hear about what their collaboration is, as it is very much a STEM and arts-focused project. So welcome, Tina and Heather. Tina, let's start with you. Let our listeners know more about who you are and what we're going to be talking about.
Okay. I have taught elementary school for 13 years, and arts integration is essential in my pedagogy. It's not that I possess any art expertise. I just appreciate the arts. And it is one of the ways that I bring my personality into the classroom to make connections with my students. And I find that the arts facilitate students in recognizing the interconnectedness of our learning.
Great. Excited to have you here. Heather, tell us a little bit more about you.
So my journey with STEM and the arts started a while back when I was an undergraduate. So I did a bachelor's degree of fine arts. And at the time, I thought I was going to be an artist the rest of my life. I was going to do photography. And then I went to graduate school and studied instructional design. And during that time, I learned that so many of the things that I do in instructional design fits right in with the design process in arts. Along that journey, as time went on, my kids went to a STEM and arts elementary school, magnet school, and I could see where STEM and arts worked really well together. And in my professional work, I was working with STEM all the time, doing research, working with teachers, doing professional development. And when I came to Brigham Young University, I saw an opportunity to be working with STEM and the arts and seeing how they could work together, seeing a lot of literature about it, and understanding that it was a very powerful way to think about content, to think about critical thinking and problem solving. And it is, in my opinion, a really holistic way of looking at learning, but also a very fun, creative, active way to look at learning as well.
It is so great to have you on our team here at the BYU McKay School. We have, the BYU Arts Partnership, which sponsors this podcast, Artful Teaching. And to have a researcher with a line of inquiry like yours, Heather, it's really great to be, in relationship with you and to have you here. So I'm really excited for this series. I already mentioned it's not STEAM, it's STEM and the arts. So let's tell the listeners what you guys mean by STEM plus the arts rather than STEAM.
I think one of the reasons that it's STEM and arts is because one of the things that we are going towards is a transdisciplinarity. We want to have natural connections with the arts into the sciences, with the arts into mathematics, using technology with the arts.
Yeah, and I would add to that it's not always just STEM plus arts, but it's arts plus STEM. It goes both ways because art teachers can also include science and math and technology and engineering into the lessons they do just as much as the STEM teachers can include art, and not in a superficial way, but in a very deep, problem-solving, critical thinking way. And I think that's where the power is in STEM and arts together. It really does force teachers and students to think critically and to really look at, if I have a problem that I'm working on, what content areas are the most important. And when we say art, we're thinking it's not just visual art, but there are different forms of art. Sometimes you need theater, sometimes you need music, sometimes you need dance, and sometimes you need visual. And picking the right one to work through that problem, that is what is the most important thing.
I love that. You know, you're speaking to a dance math teacher here. So like my mind is flooding with all these memories, like times when I did, you know, dance to serve memory, dance to serve mathematical patterning, dance to serve mathematical visualing. I wish that I was still in the classroom and I could take my students through visual art, drawing a flagpole, because they just couldn't get this idea of like a flagpole having a shadow and how am I supposed to calculate, you know, the length of the flagpole given its shadow. And if we had, you know, drawn or done shadow dances or something that they would have come up with their own problem and been interested in it and experienced the art informing their mathematical learning and the math informing their creative expression. Guys, I'm like so on board with this, obviously. Going forward, though, you guys have a formal project. So we have this podcast series that we're going to share with teachers because we want them to have examples of what STEM plus the arts or arts plus STEM. But we want teachers to have examples of what this could look like in the classroom. We want to talk to experts and people who've experienced this. That's the podcast purpose. But you guys have another project you're working on. Can you tell us about that?
I have a grant through the McKay School at BYU, and it is focused on research practice partnerships. So I approached a couple of people at Provo City Schools. So the district really had this purpose of they need to focus on STEM, but they also know that art is a really important part of education, and they don't want to cut it out. They want to have it there as an integrated part of what is happening. So they were really excited to have this partnership so that we could work on this. And together we are working on what STEM and arts looks like in elementary classrooms, focused on the SEED standards, which are the new science standards in Utah for elementary, and working towards helping the teachers see how they can make adaptations, understanding the standards, but also making art adaptations into those lesson plans and then implementing them in their classroom. So we have teachers who are art teachers in the district with classroom teachers. We get together, we talk. They ask questions about, well, how could I integrate this? Or what are the standards I'm looking at? And does that have an alignment in an art standard somewhere? So we do design activities, which is talking and collaborating and creating the lesson plans, and then implementing them, collecting data from that. We have lots of ideas of things we want to be doing, but ultimately, all of this is to build capacity for teachers and to build skills and knowledge for the students. We want this to make a difference for the students.
Oh, absolutely. The greatest influence in the classroom is the teacher. So that professional development for the teacher really, really spreads to the students. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited. So Tina, what's your role in this research practice partnership?
I started this research practice partnership as a participating teacher. My good friend in another school said, you've got to get a hold of Heather and get involved in this because this is just right up our alley. We collaborate together. And one of the things that I really appreciated about this is that it brings different schools together, and it's also a collaboration amongst different grade levels. And as I became a Instructional Psychology and Technology graduate student, then I became a project manager for Dr. Leary on this project. And so I get to see both sides of this in this design-based research as well as a classroom teacher participant. And so I am looking at it through both lenses. And for me, this is just a really exciting pivot point to be in.
Well, and my understanding of design-based research is that there is the practitioner and the researcher, and they're working together, and that whatever is designed and whatever theory is developed out of the experiences is grounded in the practitioner's experience.
And it also helps me when we are having discussions about what we should be doing for the teachers. I'm putting on a teacher hat. What am I needing to give them in order for them to make that bridge? That's the other part where I can advocate for both sides sitting at this juncture.
Definitely. And as a podcast host this season, you're going to do that for our listeners too. I'm really excited for that you can speak so much to the teacher's experience. So how long have you been working on this project, Heather?
2019 is when I first started. And at that point, I wasn't working with anyone in the district office. It was just 3 classroom teachers and 1 art teacher. And they just started talking. And it was that conversation that led us to really focus on the conversations with the teachers about what they could do. That is where there's a lot of power. And that's what they really appreciated, was that time to just collaborate. And in a way that they don't necessarily get in their regular professional development time or in the school, so that they could really think deeply about STEM and art together. And that's when I brought in the district. It was really necessary for the district to be there so that this could be something that wasn't just a couple of teachers trying to do something, but that was the district supporting this as a need. And they already wanted it anyway. And so it was just this lovely marriage of the need in the district and the research that we could do with it as well. So it's been a few years, but we're making progress, which is awesome. And I think we're getting to some points where we can really make a difference for the district level, but also from the teacher level, because we have these teachers who now have tried things and they're learning and they're growing and they can share their experiences.
Right. Everybody plays a role in the system, and the district is a great backbone support. They can help with dissemination. That, vertical alignment from teachers to district support means that there's more possibility. And I love that. It means that your project has this added element of sustainability, like you're building a sustainable system for teacher growth and student achievement that is supported by the district. But what you've created is something for not just the practicing classroom teachers, but for the district. So it has that longevity, which is really wonderful to hear.
The other thing I'd like to add to this is I see that it's also a grassroots type of a situation where the teachers themselves are gaining some dispositions and some opportunities to realize how to access an art educator, how to access one another in these artful conversations. And the other thing, it's opening up that idea of art integration. But I think the way we're doing it now is that we're building a great ground base amongst teachers in many places. And if they can get a support from the art educator in their school, that collaboration, it will feed the art teacher, who will be more willing to go to another classroom teacher. And I can just see how it's going to ribbon through and be very effective bottom up rather than just top down. And I think that's where the longevity will also come.
Yes. Oh, I love that grassroots element as well. I don't want to be trite, but it's like the gift that just keeps giving, the way that it's set up. So with maybe almost 3 years here, what have you found?
Oh, so we've found that teachers are hungry to talk to each other and collaborate. They are hungry for gaining more knowledge and skills, and they're really hungry for seeing how they can do more transdisciplinary work, like Tina said. They want to be able to not just teach math or just teach science. They want to teach it in a very authentic, real world way, so that when the students walk out into their communities and they hear things and see things and interact with things, they can start to see it as this whole picture of the world instead of, oh, right there, that's just math, or right there, that's just science, because the world isn't just math or just science or just engineering or just art or just technology, right? It is all of the disciplines that are necessary for something to happen. And they really want that. They just are not always sure how to go about doing it. It's great to see that aha moment that they get when they realize that's what they can get from this, and how they can make something like that happen in their classroom. And they get so excited. And it's that iterative way of teaching that they're also starting to see how it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. And I can learn from that, and I can grow from that. And my students are still going to grow and learn and progress in their own thinking and in their skills too.
Do they collaborate on lesson plans?
The way the elementary standards are is 3rd grade aligns with 5th grade. So the things that are taught in 5th grade were also taught in 3rd grade and then 4th and 6th. So we get teachers from 3rd and 5th to talk to each other and 4th and 6th to talk to each other. What was it that they should have learned in 4th grade that I can expect they should know by 6th grade? Where can I be that starting point for them? So that's been really nice for them to talk across grade levels.
I didn't realize that about the new seed standards are set up that way.
The other part about the collaboration that's taking place is that teachers who have never talked with our arts coach or have never talked with the science specialist, because the district is now involved in these conversations, they're asking them questions. They're also receiving input on how it was put together or what their plan is long term. And it's very interesting to also see one of the teachers, she has a master's degree in STEM. And she's like, I know all about how to do the engineering process and how to have this phenomenon in my classroom, but they need something more. And she realized that something more was, I really want to bring in the arts, but I know nothing about the arts. And yet, because of this practice partnership thing and her involvement with it, she says, now I can do a little bit more. And I came into her classroom and she goes, look what my kids did. And they had done some watercolor painting of clouds. And she said, because you were willing to show me what wet on wet looked like and how to put some dry brush in there and then how to sponge some parts off, she said, now we have this wall where the kids can talk about their cloud formations and they refer to it all the time. And they ask me when we're going to do the next art integration activity. And she says, so now I have the impetus to want to learn more. And so just having that little tiny success because she was willing to be invested in this.
Well, and also with that, it's great because the district is supporting her too. That's a wonderful thing because we have it from the grassroots with the teachers and from the district. So they're getting support from peers and from the district level. So it just really is that synergy of the two together that I think is really powerful for helping teachers want to try more and see that they can take a little bit of a risk in maybe something they're not an expert in, but they can try it and they can get better and better at it.
What other products or activities have come out of your project so far?
Yeah, and we're not just seeing things happening in the practice, in the classroom with the teachers, with the students, but we're also presenting at research conferences. So we have a presentation coming up in April at the American Educational Research Association conference. We are working on papers. So we're doing both sides, which is in a partnership, you want the research and the practice, right? So we're working on both sides and we're being successful on both sides.
This is awesome. So you not only get this podcast, but you're going to get some papers and some presentations to view as well. And lesson plans. Lots of stuff.
Lots of wonderful things coming out of this.
So is there anything else you would like to tell us about your project or what we can look forward to here in the future?
This is an informal setting. An opportunity for a teacher to download this podcast, listen to it in the car on the way to school, and maybe become inspired. Maybe hear something, maybe go to the show notes and go, I am going to dip my toe in. I am going to be brave. I'm going to try something new. And I'm hoping that this podcast series of STEM and arts, or I'm going to also say now arts and STEM, is that it allows them a little bit of freedom to innovate. And I want to go back to a really interesting thought. When Heather was talking about how it builds critical thinking and problem-solving skills and collaboration, we're talking about 21st century skills. We're talking about those things that are essential for our students, not only to become consumers, but to be actual producers. I think that's what this whole series is all about, is for not only us to discuss what we're doing in this research, but also encouraging other teachers to walk alongside us.
Great. So can teachers in the Provo City School District join your group? Is it an open group?
It is an open group. We want as many people who want to participate to be there. So we're really hoping to create a space, in the evening or late afternoon where there's a Zoom link. You can come in. We're going to present something that someone has worked on so we can share, but then also some time to just talk and ask questions and plan a little bit of what you can do and then come back and say, this is how it worked. So hopefully monthly that we would meet and do that together. So that goes beyond just the work that we've been doing here, but we're really hoping to expand that to be open to any teacher who wants to be there so that they can experience this in another way.
That's awesome. Well, that information will definitely be in the show notes. So listeners, if you would like more info, that'll be in the show notes. Tina, tell us what else is going to be in the rest of this series. Who are we going to be talking to, and what are we going to be talking about?
All right. So Mr. Dance, he is going to be coming in and talking about how he helps teachers integrate dance into science and mathematics. We have an excellent classroom teacher turned art teacher who is fabulous at integrating STEM into art, both as a co-teacher and helps classroom teachers improve their art knowledge. Then I also have a district arts coach who really does help his arts educators understand what's happening in the classroom as far as the SEED standards. And so he facilitates it from that direction. The last episode is going to be participants from the research partnership that we've been doing to wrap up how they have felt about this STEM plus arts, art plus STEM walk that they have gone through this last school year.
This is going to be exciting. I'm really grateful that you're doing this with us and that we get to share it on the Artful Teaching podcast, because we definitely have listeners who want to hear this information and be inspired by you. So thank you, Tina and Heather, for being here with us. It is a privilege to have you on the Artful Teaching podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Artful Teaching podcast. We hope you enjoyed this conversation on STEM and the arts. Subscribe to our podcast for future episodes on arts integrated science, social studies, and literacy.
Artful Teaching is made possible by the BYU Arts Partnership and the McKay School of Education. Thank you to Tina McCulloch for hosting this series, and to our editor, James Houston. And special thanks to all of the teachers who are changing lives while serving in schools.
If you like what you heard, please leave us a review and share with a friend. We believe Artful Teaching can change the world. And you can find all our episodes at advancingartsleadership.com, along with lesson plans, blogs, downloadable resources for the classroom, and more. Or follow us on social media at Every Child, Every Art. I'm Heather Francis.
And I'm Callie Phlox, wishing you an artful journey.